Hi everyone, thank you for joining this UKI Academy How to Apply webinar. I'm Charlotte Senior, I'm the Membership and Alumni Officer here at the UKI Academy. We're going to wait a couple more minutes before we start cracking on just to let the last stragglers wander in, but we'll get going at probably around 2 or 3 past 11. But again, thank you so much for joining us. So that you know, we will be taking questions in the latter half of the session today. And you should be able to see a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. That's where we'll be accepting and reviewing questions. You should also be able to see any questions that are put up forward by others. And so you and also uplift any questions that you'd particularly like to be answered. Wonderful. And actually, with that, we're sitting at a nice steady number of attendees. And so with that, I will hand over to Amy Vincent, our representative from our executive group, who will be running the session today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So, as Charlotte said, I'm one of the 7 executive group members, and I'm going to be taking you through the first part of the webinar today. Can we go to the next slide, please, Tom? So we'll start off with a bit of a sort of introduction, talk about what the UK Young Academy is, and why we've set the UK Young Academy up now. Charlotte will run you through the eligibility and the application process. I'll explain what young academies do, and a bit of background around young academies. And then we'll hear from 2 of our members, Arthur Dudney, who is also on the membership selection committee, um, and Charlotte Pereira, about their experiences and of being Young Academy members. And then after that, we'll go into a Q&A, and you can ask any questions you have that are either practical aspects which the staff can handle, and then or about our experiences of being a UK Young Academy member, or how we've applied. Next slide, please, Tom. So what is the UK Young Academy? Why now? Next slide, please, Tom. So the UK Young Academy is an interdisciplinary organisation. We accept exceptional early career researchers, innovators, and professionals. And we're really looking for people who are going to become future leaders and decision makers, that have a passion for improving our world, and developing impactful projects, and making a real change. So at the moment, we have 163 individuals, and these are selected based on their career history and a real passion to improve our world, and work together with other like-minded individuals. So the UK Young Academy has been set up in the first instance under the auspices of the Royal Society, and it is one of the first initiatives where the 7 senior academies, so the Academy of Medical Sciences, the British Academy, the Learned Society of Wales, the Royal Academy of Engineering, the Royal Irish Academy, the Royal Society, and the Royal Society of Edinburgh have all come together, and partnered up to establish the UK Young Academy. And although we sit under the Royal Society, we work with all of our senior partner academies. Next slide, please, Tom. So when the UK Young Academy was first set up, our first cohort, of which I was one of the members, decided that we would have 7 executive group members, which would form our leadership team. We decided this would be a good number to have some diversity of thought, and to get a real flavour of that wide breadth of our membership. So it's the members who drive our work programs and our projects, and these span lots of different areas and expertise. And we require that our projects are interdisciplinary. So that's a key aspect of the work that we do. It brings together people from lots of different disciplines, and the things that could only be achieved by bringing these unique individuals together. We're very lucky to have 4 staff members who are part of the Royal Society and who support everything we do. this is an incredible resource for us, and they're absolutely fantastic. Over the last 4 years, members have been delivering activities that align with a 5-year strategic plan that we established in the first year. In that first year, we also generated our governance framework, and we've been working to build our connections both nationally and globally. And we're really starting to see, a reputation for the UK Young Academy being established both within the UK and abroad. Next slide, please. So why is it called a Young Academy? If you look at many of our members, actually, you might not necessarily consider that they are young, but Young Academy is a term that is aligned with a global movement. So there are 60 Young Academies worldwide, of which the UK wasn't particularly early in this. We were the 50th Young Academy. Scotland had one for quite a while before the UK formed there, so we were quite late to the party. But the Irish Young Academy has also formed since. But the idea is that these are people that are early in their career, so young is used to indicate the sort of the early stages of their career. Next slide, please, Tom. So what do we do? So we have established a strategy, and we have 4 strategic aims that are here on the screen. So we enable visionary leadership of early career researchers and innovators, professionals across the UK on issues that matter to the UK and globally. We aim to imagine new, inclusive and sustainable futures of work and life in the UK and lead a dialogue towards addressing societal change. We aim to break down boundaries between disciplines and professions by convening voices across arts, business, industry, government, public sector, research, academia, the third sector, and beyond to share ideas and improve decision making. And then finally, we aim to develop, connect, and mobilise early career talent in an environment of inclusion and belonging. If you want to have a look at our strategy document, that's publicly available on our website. The link to that is here. Next slide, please, Tom. So our vision, the UK Young Academy seeks to be a membership of emerging interdisciplinary leaders across academic and professional sectors in the UK. We're aiming to be a leading voice that brings together experts, policymakers, and leads public dialogues and action for real change. So we're looking for really passionate members. And we also seek to be an active force translating disciplinary excellence into interdisciplinary action to build new futures in the UK and globally. Next slide, please, Tom. So what are the benefits to you? If you're thinking that sounds exactly like me, I have a real passion for change and leading impactful work. You can help to set the agenda on issues that matter to you most and that will have an impact to society as part of an influential organisation. And being part of our membership will allow you to do things that perhaps you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. You'll be part of a network of early career leaders from a wide range of sectors, and you can work globally through collaborations with other young academies. You can develop your leadership skills through the unique support that is offered by the Young Academies Initiative, and you'll have learning opportunities from the partner senior academies. You can establish and lead your own initiative with other members. And I don't say this lightly when you walk into a room with other UK Young Academy members, the breadth and excitement, the breadth of expertise and excitement that you feel in that room is incredible. So you can leverage your expertise to drive and innovate solutions and share knowledge with the other members. You can bring additional value to your employer or organisation. So this is particularly important if you're perhaps having to get permission from your employer to take some time out of your day-to-day work. There's real value in this for your employer and organisation. They'll gain from the prestige of you being a UK Young Academy member, and also develop your skills and network, which will be a benefit to those around you. Next slide, please, Tom. So I'm going to hand over now to Charlotte to talk you through who's eligible and how you can apply.
Thanks so much, Amy. And so, hi everyone. Again, so I'm Charlotte Senior, the Membership and Alumni Officer. And so I work alongside the wider staff team, two of whom are on the call today, Tom Musgrove, our assistant, and Lucy Parfitt, our communications officer. And we all work together to basically help with the operational aspects of the Young Academy and to help our fantastic members and executive group to achieve all of the goals that Amy V has just outlined. And so to crack on, if we have the next slide, please, Tom. So what are we looking for within our members? So as you start to think about your application, it's really important that we reiterate what we're looking for in potential members. So as Amy said, the UK Young Academy is an interdisciplinary organisation, and we really pride ourselves on the diverse membership which we have. So we welcome members from all sectors, whether that be academia, industry, the professional sectors, public services, government, charity, just all sorts. And the idea is bringing everyone together with a variety of voices in order to have those meaningful conversations. The key takeaway that I would say from this is that basically anyone from any sector can apply, as long as you meet our selection criteria. So we're looking for individuals who are in the early stages of their career. For us, that definition is pretty flexible and can be quite self-defined. And so if you as an individual feel that you are early in your career, then you are very welcome to apply and to provide that evidence for it within your application. Though I would say that generally for us, we would say that this is people who are around 3 to 12 years post their last qualification, whatever that may be. That may be a university degree, it could be apprenticeship or even vocational training. It's that career aspect of it. And just to really emphasize that, we really do recognize and acknowledge that there are many different routes to different career pathways, and also success doesn't look the same in every career. And we also do recognize things like career breaks or career changes. So if you don't really identify with that 3 to 12 years post your last qualification, but you took a change or a career break, just detail that in your application, and the reviewers will very much keep that in mind. We really are keen to make sure we support those who are also being transitioning. Next, we're seeking those who have a track record of excellence in their field, which is assessed as part of the selection criteria, which I'll be going through more in the next slide. And again, we recognise that this looks different all over, and so it's just about really selling yourself in the application. And then the final point is, so we are the UK Young Academy, so we are looking for applicants who live in the UK. Though a small caveat to that is that you can also apply if you are a UK national currently working abroad. We completely understand that when you're early in your career, it can take you to all sorts of different opportunities, which may mean also working overseas. And we do actually have some members at the moment who are currently working abroad, but are actively involved within membership activities. And so if this applies to you, we would just ask that you consider first whether you still feel that you'll be able to make that time commitment and to contribute towards activities to the UK Young Academy, but also would suggest that you really emphasize that within the application as well. Again, making sure that you really sell yourself to the reviewers. Next slide, please. So the selection criteria. Our membership selection process is highly competitive, and we assess applications based on the following 3 criteria. So first of all, we've got the career history section. This is the biggest contributor towards your final score of the application, and so it's really important you make sure you spend a lot of time on this part. Here, our reviewers are really looking for excellence in career and professional achievements. Again, recognizing that what constitutes that excellence can vary depending on your career path. There isn't a one-size-fits-all approach either to demonstrating that excellence, and would say that it's really about making a compelling case for your achievements within the application. Notes for those of you who have applied before. there has been a slight change to this section. So where previously we'd asked for individuals to put a detailed description for each career point that they uploaded, we now just do a simple career history entry, kind of like you would do on LinkedIn or on a classic CV. And then we ask for you to provide a short narrative and description of your career history to date. We're finding that this is a much better way of getting a sense of your achievements and your passions and personality, and also reduces the burden on you folk with the amount of written aspects for the application process. It's also, I would note this was also a section which came through, the change specifically really came through from feedback from our reviewers, and so they will be paying a lot of attention to this section. So again, really make sure you're selling yourself here. Speaking of selling yourself, a little tip from me would be to make sure that you really tell us what you did as an individual to contribute to the work of your team and how this then led to the success. It seems pretty basic, but using the STAR method, where you can outline the situation, the task, the action, and the result, is a really, really helpful way for selling this, particularly for reviewers who may be a layperson and not be able to as readily see what your contributions actually mean within your field. Next is the personal statement. So this is your opportunity to demonstrate how you align with our mission, our vision, and the objectives. Again, we're looking for evidence for leadership, of your enthusiasm for innovation, but also any entrepreneurial activity or interdisciplinary collaboration, which you also have. And yeah, if you have this is the perfect place to talk about it. And also anything around international cooperation that you may have. Again, these are all optional things, but if you've got them, flaunt them. And so, yeah, because all of these things really go to the heart of what we do. And again, STAR method here is a really good option for getting your points across. And then finally, we have the vision and commitment to the UK Young Academy. So as I think Amy's kind of implied in the beginning, like we want active members who are eager to contribute and get involved, not just people looking for another line on their CV. So we're looking for people who are innovative and creative thinkers who can address global or national, professional, societal issues. And your commitment to the UK Young Academy should really be clear within this section, especially in terms of how you will prioritise your time with us. If you haven't looked through the application already, just to point out that this section does ask for a 3-minute video where you talk about a topic, issue or subject area which interests you and that you think could be an area for consideration for the UK Young Academy's work programme. I would be really firm here, just something that applicants often fall short on is that they will submit a video that is over 3 minutes. Full disclosure, we do have a 10% contingency. So if you're 10% over that 3 minutes, we will let your application through, but anything over that will be removed and considered ineligible and not progressed to review. So really do make sure you're sticking to that time limit. I would also say this can also be a slightly nerve-wracking aspect of the application. I think people aren't always used to it. So if for any reason you don't feel comfortable creating a video or have any concerns about it, please get in touch with the staff team. We can either provide a little bit of advice or like things to consider, which reviewers have commented on previously in general, or we can also offer a written option instead. And on that, next slide, please. So applying for membership, I won't stay on this slide for too long. You will receive the slides after this session today, and so everything is hyperlinked and takes you to all the right places on our website. But just to highlight a couple of the things is our applications are submitted through our application portal, oddly enough, which is currently open. And on our website, you'll find a wealth of guidance documents and FAQs to help you determine your eligibility, but also to navigate the application process. You can also find a draft application, which you can do offline using the Word version, though again, just to note that this will have to be submitted. You will have to then enter this information onto the online portal, as we are not able to accept offline applications. Something else to note here is that we do need, if you're applying through our general route to applications, you do need to have 2 referees before submission. This is another area where there's sometimes some sticky points, and so I would really recommend that you line your reviewers up, your referees up in advance. Make sure that they're expecting the email, and just make sure that they do actually receive their notifications. We sometimes find they get stuck in spam folders or just disappear into the ether. But if that does happen, not to worry, again, get in touch with the staff team. We can send through the referee links for them. And I think that's everything from that slide I wanted to highlight. So next one, please. Wonderful. So the timeline. So our application window is open until 3 p.m. on the 15th of July. And then there's an additional 2 weeks after that deadline for reviewers to submit their supporting statements. So plenty of time for you to follow up with them and also for us to handle any missing links and things like that. Again, I would really encourage you to ask your referees to complete their references as soon as possible. So if you've submitted your application before the deadline, encourage them to also submit before their deadline, as we do find that either applicant or referee, if you're submitting right on the deadline, you can sometimes get into technical issues, which can just lead to unnecessary stress. And so would really recommend that you try to get things submitted as soon as possible. Our selection process will then run through into early January, with the outcomes being shared in early spring next year. This is usually around mid to late February. Our induction will then be taking place for new members and also our all members meeting from the 22nd to 23rd of March 2027. We would ask that you please keep this date in your diary as a hold, as attending the induction is a compulsory part of membership, and is also just a really important way to get to know your new cohort and get stuck in. And so just please do note those dates. And then, nope, that's all I wanted to cover on that slide. So next slide, please. So this is my final points of just things to consider before applying, which is, first of all, use the available information and guidance. Most of the questions which you have are likely answered within our FAQs on the website, but if not, please ask them today or feel free to reach out to the staff team via the email address linked at the bottom. And then next, as I've said a few times now, really do make sure that you've lined up your referees. This is again where we tend to see some delays coming in with applications and unnecessary stress for applicants. So again, each application requires 2 references, and please make sure that you inform them in advance before submitting your application, as our system will automatically contact them once you've submitted. Next is the video. So again, the application process includes that 3-minute video, and it's crucial that you stick to that time limit. It should be concise, relevant to the topic that you're passionate about. And yeah, again, if you have any accessibility concerns regarding the video, just contact the staff team, and we can help you arrange alternatives for that. There's also actually guidance specifically around producing a good video, included within the application guidance pack, which is on our website. So do take a look at that as well. Next, keep the selection criteria in mind when you're completing your application, and really ensure that your application is aligning with UKE Young Academy's goals. You can also use our strategy as a guide for this, which was linked earlier within the slides, but it's also available via our website. I have been emphasizing how you align with us, but actually something else which I would want to add is that if there's any areas that you think that we're falling short on, or gaps that you can see within our activities or our programs or objectives, absolutely call us out. We are looking, again, we're looking for members who want to actively contribute to the Young Academy, and that includes telling us where we're not quite doing things right yet, because we know that we're not perfect. And so if you see a gap and you think you know how you can help us fill that gap, please absolutely include that in the application. Which then leads us nicely on to, if in doubt, just apply. We really encourage people, if you've got a love or a passion for what we do, to really just apply. These things, and especially enthusiasm, really shine through within the application process. And that's what we're looking for. So even if you've been, especially if you've been unsuccessful in previous years, we would still really greatly encourage you to apply. As I said, it's a highly competitive process. And many of our members actually are repeat applicants themselves. Something which we do is that our selection committee selects the strongest possible cohort to join the membership, and so that means that just because there wasn't a place for you in a previous year does not necessarily mean there isn't a place for you in the future. And so please do keep that in mind if this isn't your first time applying. And then actually the last thing I'm going to say just before I pass back on to Amy is if you have already started your application, you may have noticed we've got another new question, which is around the use of AI. I think as we're all aware, AI is becoming a much, and third-party software in general is becoming a much more embedded part of daily life, and we're noticing that more and more AI content is like entering the application pool. We absolutely understand that there's accessibility positives to the use of AI and third-party software for applications, and are absolutely open to those who need to use it, whether that be for translational purposes or maybe to refine your own unique ideas, but are very firm that it can't be to create false or non-personal content. If you have any you want to know a little bit more about what our do's and don'ts are around the use of AI in applications, that's also included within our guidance. And at the end of the application, we will ask you if you have used AI and just to let us know in what capacity you used it. Absolutely will not be used to determine whether or not your application is progressed or add to any negative consideration by the reviewers. And with that, next slide, please, and I will pass back over to Amy V.
Unmute. Thank you, Charlotte. So what do UK Young Academies do? Next slide, please, Tom. So there are lots of different things going on within the UK Young Academy. We've got groups that are undertaking projects to address important issues. These are things like the At-Risk Scholars Initiative, which is providing support to people who have been displaced from their home country and are moving to the UK. So then we've also got Imagine, which is looking to provide a wealth of information for people to imagine futures for themselves in a wide variety of different careers. We've got Thrive that looks to develop guidance on sort of best practice for supporting neurodivergent employees and students, and a whole host of other projects. There are lots of other things going on. So we've got it's like special interest groups that are working on particular areas, and lots of other activities happening. We've got things coming out of the work that we're doing, such as reports, events, things going into the media, mentorship activities. And these activities are aimed at different audiences. So we've got a lot of things that are happening that are aimed at policymakers, things that are designed to be aimed at the public or to engage the public, activities that are aimed at educators, and then also activities aimed at school children. So Imagine is an example of that. Next slide, please, Tom. So what is the UK Young Academy doing now? So we've got member-led projects, which is what I was just talking about, things like Imagine, the At-Risk Scholars, Thrive. We've got workshops with our partner academies to share the perspectives of early career individuals. So these might be things where the partner academies have sought out our voices from an early career perspective, or things that have been developed with our partner academies. We've got lots of international meetings happening. So recently this has included meetings in Oman, Cairo, Berlin. We've also had a delegation of members who have recently returned from representing the UK Young Academy at the European National Young Academies Conference and ALIA meeting, which was in Warsaw. ALIA is the All European academies meeting. So that's including senior academies as well as young academies. I think I got that right. Then we've got working groups that are overseeing different aspects of our work programs. So we have an EDI working group, a communications working group, the projects working group, which deals with the applications and the development of our member-led projects. We've got a membership development working group, which organises opportunities to develop the skills and the experiences of our members. Related to that, we have training that is tailored specifically to our UK Young Academy members and cohort. And then we're also starting to, now that we've developed our reputation, we are starting to get special invites to speak at high profile events. And these include things like events with policymakers, invitations from government officials, lots of interesting opportunities there to get involved in. Next slide, please, Tom. So what current projects do we have? So I've already talked a little bit about some of these. So our projects are programs of work that have been developed by our members and are led by our members. And these have been running since 2024. And the idea is that they should tackle some of the most pressing challenges faced today, and the things that can only be achieved by the UK Academy because of our diversity of our membership and the interdisciplinary aspect of the work that we do. So the at-risk scholars and professionals, like I said, is supporting early career at-risk individuals who have been displaced from their home country and are moving to the UK. Thrive is developing best practice to support neurodivergent employees or students. Imagine is the work around helping young individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds imagine a future for themselves and what careers they could go into. We've got Health Open Spaces, which has been bringing together people from lots of different backgrounds to shape the future of healthcare. Making Waves is looking at understanding marine life and food webs within the UK secondary school curriculum and developing the secondary school curriculum in that aspect. And then we've got the Science and Tech Diplomacy project, which, funnily enough, is looking at science and tech diplomacy. Although a lot of these projects are led by the UK Young Academy, we're also looking to collaborate with other young academies and partner organisations to ensure we not only have impact at the end, but also that they are high quality and that we're not duplicating efforts. So if you have an idea for a potential project, something to think about for if you become a member in the future. Next slide, please, Tom. So now we're going to hand over to two of our members to hear about their experiences of being a Young Academy member. So we'll start with Arthur.
Oops. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to speak for a few minutes about first how I framed my application, and then just some words of advice based on my experience of being on the membership selection committee from last year. I think the key thing to remember is that everyone's path in terms of their career development is different. And so my own experience was a sort of traditional academic path. And then a few years ago, I ended up working in the charity sector. I began as a historian of 18th century Indian intellectual history. Had my second postdoc, and there were no lectureships to be had in that very narrow field. So I found myself accidentally in the world of philanthropy. So now I run a family foundations program to digitize endangered cultural heritage, and so. In applying to the UK Young Academy, I had both an advantage and a disadvantage in that I sort of had done two very different things. So I had a sort of broad experience. But at the same time, I needed to bridge those two careers to sort of explain coherently what my career story was. And I think that being able to tell that story, whether you've had sort of one clear career path or many, is key to how you can frame a good application. So in my case, what's always been the same from my academic work to now my work in the charity sector, is that I've always been passionate about preserving and sharing authentic information about culture. And what I mean by authentic is that something is traceable to a source. And it turned out that many other members of the UKYA also had a similar interest, framed slightly differently, around combating misinformation in their own sectors. And so really, my work on sort of 18th century intellectual history and now funding projects to digitize cultural heritage broadly fits under the umbrella of combating misinformation. And so as I pulled together my application, I realized that actually I'd done lots of different things, and I was sort of impressed with myself actually, because I realized that I had a very long CV of all sorts of different things, um, uh, nothing sort of particularly amazing in itself, like no one's given me like a Nobel Prize or anything. So it was really about demonstrating that various different things that I'd organized, that I'd worked hard for, actually mattered in the context of a kind of wider sector or the goals that I'm trying to achieve. And so it was a good experience to be able to sort of line up different accomplishments and be able to categorize them and show that they add up to something. Um, and looking at all of this from the perspective of now someone who's a member of the UKYA and who is assessing other people's applications, um, the I'm really sort of reiterating advice that Charlotte has already given you. But the key challenge for us is that when we assess applications, we're matching an applicant's accomplishments to their career stage. And that has to be a holistic exercise. There's no way of saying that, by age 25, you should have done this. By age 30, you should have done this. By age 35, this. By age 40, you're too old, right? That's not the way that these things work. And so it as an applicant, for you, I think it's very important that you're able to help us in understanding why your achievements are in fact significant at your career stage. So as I said, for me, that was about sort of building up a story of how, a conference that I had organized that was impactful and involved sort of applying to different sources of funding, why that was an important achievement for the point in my career stage when I had done that. Why publishing a book on a particular subject was important in my career stage, and then why, as I changed from being a traditional academic to being someone who assesses and funds digitization projects, sort of how my achievements in that role have sort of built on what I was doing in a different context at a university. So be explicit about why each of your accomplishments that you choose to tell us about matters, and specifically in this context of why that's impressive in the point you are at in your career stage. Um, Another piece of advice, the bit about your vision for the UKYA is the third section of three. So it feels like it might be something that we're not that interested in. But in fact, because the application process is so competitive, sometimes very, very good applications in the other two sections fall because the selection committee is not convinced by the vision that an applicant is putting forth for the UKYA. So poor applications tend to just ignore what the UKYA is doing and just say, I have important visions for the future. Middling applications tend to be lists of projects that we have in the UKYA. And the applicant says, you're doing very interesting projects. I would like to be part of these projects. But the impressive applications are the ones that engage with our current work and give a very clear sense of how the applicant would participate in these projects, but also, as Charlotte said, is able to tell us what we're not doing quite right, how they would not only engage with these projects in a sort of in a kind of passive way, but also in an active way of trying to make the projects better and trying to make the projects sort of serve the UKYA's overall aims better. So those are the sorts of applications that really really stand out in terms of the vision for the UKYA. And the last thing I would say is that on the committee, we are keenly aware of of a crucial difference between the UKYA and other institutions that call themselves academies, which is that we are not purely for university researchers. And so we strongly encourage applications from industry, from the civil service, from the charity sector, because the more members that we can have from those different sectors, the more effective we will be as an academy at breaking down silos between different fields, because these sectors are currently, at least in my own view, underrepresented. And for you as applicants, again, the sort of key challenge for you is to be able to tell us how you fit in your sector, why you are sort of impressive in your sector, but also why you can bring the sort of the kind of the specific knowledge and the connections that you have within your sector, how you can bring those to bear on the UKYA's work. And so the more explicit you can be about that, especially keeping in mind that most of the people who are reading your application will not have a deep knowledge of your sector, the stronger your application can be. And also one last point, even though I said my previous point was my last point, just be very careful when you use AI, because as Charlotte said, we will not, if you use AI in your application and you tell us you have, that's absolutely fine. We understand all of the different reasons why you would want to use these software tools to help you with your application. However, what we are very careful about, and what I've seen in other different selection processes that I've been part of outside of the UKYA, we need to be absolutely sure that the ideas that are being presented in your application are in fact your ideas. It's very important that you do not allow AI hallucinations or misrepresentations to come into your application, because it would be difficult for us to support an application that contains things that just aren't true because it came from the AI rather than from you as the applicant. So just be very careful and make sure that everything that you're presenting is your own idea, your own accomplishment, and that AI is used for to support the application, for translation, for honing ideas, but the ideas must absolutely be yours. Right. So that's everything from me, but I'm happy for you to direct questions at me in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. And now I'm going to hand over to Sharif.
Thanks, Amy. Can you guys hear me clearly? Okay,
Yes.
right. So my name is Charith Pereira. So My background is computer science. I'm in University of Cardiff, Wales. So I'm a one data point. So please ask questions from Arthur about the general things. I'll talk about in a more honest way what I did. I didn't have much idea about this whole young academy thing. I saw I think in your newsletter, and one thing that catch me is the interdisciplinary, which I already was doing at the time, but the intersectorial thing, I think we probably not. I think that is the unique part. Large portion of academics do look to interdisciplinary, but intersector is kind of not much. So that is the kind of reason to apply. Sorry, I'm looking at some of the notes. So at the give a lot of advice. So I basically applied twice. I think this one of those people applied twice. First round, I got some feedback, which I think, broadly speaking, they are related to that. You said something, but not. Can you better connect it to what the Young Academy stands for, or the kind of work experience, kind of ongoing work and your thoughts and perspectives. And then I basically corrected and kind of revised and submitted. As academic, the form is fairly straightforward. If you have the things, I was lucky enough to have, compared to other, my background is straight academia. So even though I'm coming from overseas, it's basically PhD, postdoc, academic straight. But I have done some other. I did 2 secondments, one in the Digital Catapult in London, and then I did a fellowship with the GCHQ and did another secondment with the Building Research Establishment in Watford. And I also worked with the psychology and biosciences area in environmental. So I had enough to talk about outside my areas. But another thing other than the intersectorial, I was looking for something kind of outside work. That means, for example, we have all like civic mission, which in universities we call like editorial boards and kind of extension to the day-to-day academic work. So I was looking something beyond. So that is one of the things that I applied. So when you're writing the application, one little test you might think about doing is, especially if you're using the AI and things like that, if somebody copy paste your content for their own application, would it make sense for them to use or with minimum editing? If it is minimum editing, that means too generic for your own perspective. So that is what I would say, that because when you say something, it has to be more customized to your expertise, and then only you probably feel like a unique contribution. Regarding the video, something that bothers me is basically I try to make it perfect, those kind of things, but it doesn't have to be. In these cases, uniquely and very unusually, in both years, first year I was about to go to US, and the second year I was in the US, and it was out of my computer. I basically recorded it in a very crude way. I think there was instruction that the quality and things doesn't matter. I did not have to, and that is true, because if you had ever watched my one, it is not good at all, because I do create nice videos for my students and kind of recorded lectures, but it was basically me talking to the camera. So I think it doesn't matter the quality, so don't worry too much about it. I think what you say and your experience matters, so don't worry too much of editing and kind of stitching up and things. So that is regarding the video, I would say. Some of the things I talk about, my ideas are around global North and South, because I'm coming from South Asian country. it doesn't mean necessarily once you kind of join, you had to do that. It is basically your passion, because I started I think 2 months back. And then when I joined and talked to people, there were very interesting and relevant projects that I could contribute to. So I basically decided, okay, I don't need to push something that is just because it is my idea. But this is a 5-year period, so you might later on get on with these ideas. But I decided to work with some of the neurodivergent kind of projects, which I had some background. So you need to have an idea you're passionate about to pitch that why you are uniquely kind of suitable, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you from the day one you will be doing that. I think it is more suited just saying that sometimes from academics perspective we go look for kind of academic funding and those kind of things. So this opportunity is more like to be a little bit more open-minded. So some people might build some friendships, and maybe on their own time they might go for like a UKRI funding or things like that. But this particular opportunity, my interpretation is more like get together and kind of work as a team with a variety of different people that you would not work together, and also not too much worrying about like academic type deliverables, which are the papers and so on, but you more like creating impact without too much burden. So I think open-mindedness would be more helpful, I guess. I think that is pretty much based on my notes. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And in that case, we'll now move into the Q&A session. Charlotte has been very busy throughout the webinar answering some of the questions that have popped up in the chat. So thank you, Charlotte. And some of these we're going to take live. So the first one I'm going to go with is regarding the referees. Do these have to be from the UK? Charlotte, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, I can take that. And actually, excuse me, I'm going to link it with another question around referees, which is also, do you have any advice on selecting referees? So your referees can absolutely be from anywhere. They do not need to be UK based at all. But what we would say is that when thinking about selecting your referees, really think about the breadth of your experience which you're wanting to demonstrate. So a really amazing piece of advice which actually Sophie Meekings, one of our executive group members, gave a few years back, was that when she was thinking about writing her application and referees, she selected one from her work life to reinforce what she talked about within her application, but then also another one from her voluntary role to really round out that application. So making sure she showed that wide breadth. Something else she did, which is also something that people don't always know they can do, but is really something that you should know you can do, is you can brief your referees. So if there's something that we've got word limits, if there's something that you wanted to talk about but didn't have space to talk about in detail because you wanted to make sure you went into enough detail on other aspects, brief your referees on what part of your time with them you would like them to talk about and really demonstrate. That's absolutely fine. And if anything, will help, again, strengthen and then allow you to still be able to write concisely and clearly about your other aspects within the application itself.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. So I'm going to go down these in order. So if there's any that come up that you particularly want answering, just lift them up by liking them. So the next one is, while the current members seem to be largely from the STEM background, is the Academy open to researchers from social sciences? Arthur, would you like to take that one?
Yes, so the Academy, as we've said a few times now, is open to everyone. We are aiming to have the most diverse membership that we can, and that means every academic field and beyond academia. So yeah, there's no there are, you know, I would say that there's certain fields are more I wouldn't say overrepresented, but there some fields predominate among our membership, but there's no that's not by design, and we are trying to balance things. Yeah.
Thank you, Arthur. So the next one we have, when articulating our visions, do you prefer us to engage with current projects, or would you rather us propose ideas for new projects? Is there space funding to start new projects? And I'll take that one. There's absolutely space and funding to start new projects. Really what we prefer is that you speak to what is important to you. So if you look through the projects and you think, actually, that's something I really want to work on, by all means say that. If you have a fantastic new idea, tell us about that. The most important thing is that you come across as being enthusiastic and really wanting to drive that project forward and change. So it really doesn't matter what the thing is that you're proposing. The next one, could you please summarize again how the personal statement and vision commitment component differ? Is it that the personal statement is about our transversal skills that we bring into the table, and the vision about the ideas, topics, methods that we would like to tackle? Charlotte, would you like to take that one?
I was actually going to say whether, Arthur, if you think that
Okay.
you've got any thoughts on that, because I would I think though having just said that, I will then say that no, the personal statement is really to give us that idea of you as an individual, and again really demonstrating what you've been up to and what your achievements are, and then the vision is more about how that then applies to the UK Young Academy and why, because of this, you think you could why you think you would be a benefit to the UK Young Academy, also why the UK Young Academy would be a benefit to you. There we go. Lost confidence, and then it was all fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlotte. So the next one. Is there any maximum word count for each section, and what is the selection percentage?
I think we were just answering these ones typed. But yeah, just
Okay.
I'll answer live anyway. Yeah, there are word counts for each section, which you can see detailed in the associated guidance and the draft application form. You should really see this as a guide for how much information we're looking for. So make sure if you see a word count of 500, submitting 150 words would really be seen as, not enough detail. So make sure that you're putting in, you're using that as your guide for how much to do for each section. And then regarding selection percentage, I'm assuming this is about the number of applications received, and so and like the success rate. We usually receive around 200 eligible applications each year, and then this year we'll be selecting around 30 new members.
Thank you, Charlotte. So the next question, can you chat about non-work career activities such as voluntary roles you do in the community? Absolutely. Anything that you think articulates why you would bring something important to the UK Young Academy, put it in there. Next question. Do you referees have an impact on selection? Do you need a high-profile individual to refer to us and increase our chances of acceptance? Charlotte or Arthur? Who would like to take that one? Arthur's going for it.
I would say that no, it's not about choosing a high profile referee necessarily. It's again, when we look at referees, it's something that the panel considers holistically. The most important thing is that they are able to speak to the things that you've discussed in the application. So what I would say is the worst thing that you can do is to find a high-profile person who doesn't know you particularly well and can't articulate why you would be a good fit. I would say, for me personally, the referees that make the most impact, the most positive impact on applications that I read are the ones that really engage with the question of why would this applicant be a good fit for the UKYA.
Thank you, Arthur.
Can I add just one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
In my application, I select somebody from Australia because that is where I did PhD. He was not my supervisor, but he's somebody who I thought who can give kind of assessment about my work because it is my discipline. So he is from computer science. And the second person I selected from School of Bioscience, who is actually permanently living in Borneo, Malaysia, because we have a field center there, and then I do work with interdisciplinary work with that particular person. So I pick and choose like different coverages. So I think that is more important than, especially one of those people are not high profile per se, I would say. The other one was a little bit. So I think more than the high profile nature, it's more like how much they know about you and how much the legitimate kind of their words are. So it could be somebody who is kind of very maybe small charity even in a different country, but within that context, if their word values, I think that is more important than a fancy professor with a lot of letters at the end of the word names. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm conscious of time, but since we've only got one last question, is it okay to answer that last one, Charlotte?
Please go ahead.
Cool. Perfect. So this one's about how it sounds like a wonderful opportunity, and just asking how frequently members engage and how do we get the UK Young Academy members together. So we have 2 all members meetings each year, one in person in the spring and then one remote in the autumn. But we also try to organise local meetings as well. We've just set up an events working group that is looking at other ways to bring people together. But with such a large membership, you can imagine this is quite a tricky thing to do. We have lots of online meetings, and we're also trying to find other ways for people to engage. So if you have an idea of how we should be doing that, by all means, bring that to the table, because we're very open to other ways of working together.
Yeah.
Anyone else have anything they wanted to add to that?
I was actually just going to say, so like an example of one of these things that's in the works is, so we've got regional meetings is something we've been trying to get off the ground for a little while, and we've now got an events working group who are I'm going to be looking into that. And so any thoughts around, improving our regionality, I think as a Young Academy would be really of interest. And then also something else coming through is peer-to-peer mentorship as being something of like really great interest to the members. And so we've got that sort of like a pilot coming through the work. So again, anything that you think could be, if you've got any input or thoughts around how not just as a community you can receive support, but also how you can uplift each other, that would be really interesting to hear.
Thank you, Charlotte. And that is all of our questions. Thank you everyone for attending, and hopefully we'll see lots of exciting applications soon.
Thank you all and have a lovely day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.